Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. Today we have a special video. It's concerning baseball, and it's about Southern University. We got one of the greatest legendary coaches that coached there from 1972 to 1984. He played baseball at Southern from 1967 to 1971. And when I tell you people, a gentleman that knows baseball inside out, I give him an A plus because he coached one of my best friends that I was in the first grade with. And the young man ended up playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers as they started in center fielder on opening day in 1985, Mr. Reggie Williams. If you like the video, please come in and share it. So let me bring my guest up. Right now, he's in the state of Mississippi. That's where he resides. And I told you, there's always something in the water in Mississippi because my parents are from Mississippi, Inez and Chester. Can we say Morgan Freeman? Can we say Earl Jones? James Earl Jones. Can we say B.B. King? Well, hey, that's where this young man is residing. But he was born in Chicago, Illinois. Today, we welcome him to 100 Yards Football, Coach Leroy Boyd. How you doing today, Coach?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Okay, you ready to talk some of this baseball legend?
Yes, I am.
Now, before we get into your first question, a lot of people don't know about Southern University, but their baseball program has sent a lot of players to the major leagues. Danny Goodwin, Ricky Weeks, Johnny Harrison, Lou Brock, Devon Day, Billy Baldwin, Jake Brown, Lee Richard, Joe Pittman, Kendrick Jackson, Roger Cador, Reggie Williams from the 901. And this young man started at Southern University in 1967. But, Coach, tell everybody where you from, where you originate at, and how did you get into baseball to your great career at Southern? Where are you from today?
I'm from Chicago.
Okay.
And, my baseball career started, was walking through the park. I had just got through caddying at the golf course because that's the only place I could make money at 8 years old. And this guy, I'll never forget, named John Hubbard, was running through the park. And he stopped and asked me, he said, do you have a Boys Club card? And I told him no. He said, do you have 50 cents? I said, yes. He said, well, look, I'm going to go over here and you're going to play with us. We need one guy to start with our team to start this game. I said, okay, and after the game, you got to buy a Boys Club card. So, okay, I did. And that was my start in baseball and never stopped after that.
Now, I was doing some research on your background information, and a lot of people don't know some of the problems that you faced to get to your career. And what were some of the major problems you faced growing up in your Chicago neighborhood?
Wow. I grew up in two neighborhoods. I grew up in the Woodlawn neighborhood. Well, it was all Woodlawn, but it was different sections. And I grew up in an area where the Blackstone Rangers developed. But I knew all those guys before they became a gang. And then my mother moved to Ingleside Street. And I knew all the guys that became disciples before they became disciples. And I attended an elementary school called Wadsworth. And it was about a block away from the Boys Club. And that's how I got involved in the Boys Club, which became a major impact in my life as I went on. And then she moved back into the neighborhood where I grew up with the Rangers, and that's when they developed into a gang. It was some serious stuff because these guys I knew had all become a gang with the intentions of just protecting the neighborhood against outsiders. And it developed far greater than that. They started beating up people to make them join. But the issue I had with them, I never hung around with none of them. And I was always, like going to high school, I was always up at 6 because we had basketball practice at 7 in the morning. So I would miss that. And after school, we had basketball practice. And then after that, I would go to the Boys Club or the field house. So I missed a lot of stuff. And the only friends I had was if I played on a team with you, you were my friend. Outside of that, I was what they would call a loner. I didn't have any intentions of being around gang members at all. And they didn't bother me. Well, a couple of reasons why they didn't. I had a cousin who was what they call a main 21, and had a brother, my youngest brother, who was involved in that stuff. He was also a main 21. So I had no issues with the gang members, and they had none with me because of who I had relatives involved in the gang.
Who was your biggest influence of you really getting you to want to go to college?
Well,
Some of your mentors at your early age.
okay, I had never heard of a black school
Yes, sir.
because I used to get a newspaper all the time. My mother would send me to the newspaper stand to get one because in those days they played policy, and somehow she would look in the racing form and they would tell you who won the money. And so by that way, I would look at the newspaper every day. That's what made me a better reader, reading the newspaper every day. And the people who impacted me most was Mr. Maryland, Ed Woods, Charles East, MC Johnson. Now, they had a baseball team called Orioles, which all those guys who had played in college formed the team. And I was 14 years old at the time. And they would make me practice, but wouldn't let me play. So I played high school and practiced with them all the time. They never let me play. Only time I got to play was on Saturday. Those guys influenced me because we had on that team they had a person from every SWAC school that lived in Chicago, and
Wow.
had two guys from Stillman, and I forgot this kid name from Stillman. He led the nation in scoring basketball scoring in college while he was there. Dude played outfield. The dude was super fast. Those guys implanted Southern University because they all were recruiting kids to go to college. They chose me to go to Southern. They chose two guys that was on our team to go to Arkansas Pine Bluff. And they had a couple of guys that they sent to Jackson State. And we had one pitcher named Scipio Spinks. We grew up together. He played about 15 years in the major leagues. He was the same age I was, but man, at 15, he was throwing almost 100. So he signed right out of junior college, I think, with the Astros. So we had intentions of going to college, but these were the guys who implanted college in us and implanted black college into us. And once I got to Southern, it was a whole different world.
Now tell me the major question here. How did Southern University change you and impact your life?
From the first day I got there, two things happened that amazed me. The first one was I got to walk around the campus. Everybody was speaking to me. And you know, growing up in Chicago, there is no eye contact and speaking unless
Yes,
you
sir.
get confronted, you know. And apparently I thought I was Billy D because all the girls were saying hello. I said, oh, man, what's going on here? I just never had been south to know that these people treat you differently. They see you the hello, whether they know you're not. And the second one was mosquitoes. My first night there, my roommate kept telling me, say, bro, you better get under that cover. The mosquito's going to get you. And being from Chicago, I got bit by mosquitoes one time because I was in the park and it got close to dusk and one bit me, and it didn't bother me anymore. But man, they told me, God, dog, it took me a year because I was hearing mosquitoes and wasn't no mosquitoes. Those are the two things that influenced me quite a bit. But our head baseball coach was a big factor. He taught us how to appear, how to talk, and how you must adjust to college. Because his first thing telling us was, I'm not going to your class and ask the teacher for no grades. You're here to be a student and then be an athlete. If you don't get your grades up, you'll be gone. But if so, you'll get a chance to play baseball.
Mr. Logan Landers, our producer today, has some questions for you, Coach Boyd. Mr. Logan Landers.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Turner. So, Mr. Boyd, let's talk about your playing career at Southern. So you mentioned going there and like I said, those dang mosquitoes just getting to you. But what was it like on the field? Well, I know you did play with the great pitcher J.R. Richard. So talk about your time there.
No, JR didn't sign with us. He signed with Houston for for 80,000.
Okay, my mistake.
He was gonna come there also via the Blue, but they got They got money, so they weren't able to get it. Southern was a great recruiter. Everybody we had either got drafted while it was at Southern or after they left Southern. But our baseball program still has 29 SWAC championships, and nobody's even close to us. I
Yes,
don't think
sir.
anybody has 10. Maybe Jackson State is the closest. But our baseball program, that's what stopped me from playing college basketball with the program.
Mm.
Because when you come in August, you practice from August till December.
Wow.
And then you go home for Christmas. Then you come back in January and you rolling right into the season. So it didn't give you a chance to play any other sport
That's
except
it.
maybe football.
Yeah, not much time off. So what led you into coaching at Southern? What led you on that track after you were done playing? Went to the minor league for a little bit. What led you back to coaching there at Southern?
Well, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Because the 2 years I was in the minors, I watched everything that they did. So I have an understanding how to produce players to get a little further than I did. And they did a lot of things that influenced how I became a coach. First of all, we at Southern, we just had two coaches, Coach Hines and Coach Lee, who was the first coach before Coach Hines. And Coach Lee got probably the highest winning percentage of all the college baseball history. And those two taught us a lot of things about fundamentals, where to be, and how to react, and how to play the game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Turner, I'll get back to you, sir.
Coach Boyd,
Right.
another question I want to ask you, a very, very serious question. How getting your degree, how did it impact you in your life, finishing in Southern and graduating?
Oh, it was big, bro, because I was the first one in my family,
Amen.
my present family, to get it. But I had a cousin named Billy C., who got his at Tennessee State a year before I got mine. So I was second in the total family, but first in my family. It changed, bro. It gave me an insight as to how I could achieve and go further. Having that degree meant a lot to me, because as a coach, there's no way you can coach and not have a degree and expect your incoming people to achieve toward being a student than an athlete. Because if you have no degree, most kids you're gonna talk to gonna just look at you, well, I ain't got to get either. I just come here and play.
Today I got two serious comments about you from two of your former players. And usually when you get comments from people that's talking about another person in this light, this how God is in this plan, and you on our show today. One of your former players, Harvey Lee, and a gentleman who I grew up with, Reggie Williams, that we talked about outside the show, Southside High School, class of 7-8, same class as me, said one thing about you, Coach Boyd. You prepared them for life. And Reggie even said this to me this past weekend. If it wasn't for Coach Boyd, I would have never made it to the major leagues. And I took back and I said, you know what? Coach Boyd is a very special man. And the one thing the two players, your former players, said that really sticks out, they say you knew the game from inside out, detail to detail. Tell us about that, Coach, at your time in Southern.
Look, I learned the game by two things. The first thing that really got me interested in baseball, as a kid, I watched the Babe Ruth story. I said, wow, okay, that's what I want to do. And then what really enhanced my thinking about coaching is listening to the baseball games on the radio, because they describe situations, what to do, what to look for, how guys are going to steal, all this. And it enhanced my coaching. But also I thought about things that, like base stealing. I watched pitchers, because all pitcher was different, and I try to locate where a guy would be best stealing on. They had high kick. They had guys that pitched their front leg across the plane and go forward. All kind of things like that to increase theirs. But with Reggie and Harvey them, the reason I was really hard on them about getting them prepared for major leagues, because it's a difference between what you do and what other people do. And what you expect them to do for you will not happen. Because I saw a lot of situations where guys who got money were allowed to fail. And when blacks and Hispanics didn't get money, they were allowed a short period of time to either be successful or fail. Once you fail, they moved on to the next guy because baseball has a draft every year. And when I was growing up, it was more extensive in the minor leagues. They had teams with, like the Yankees, before I out of high school, the Yankees would have 7 or 8 minor league teams just in A-ball. And they were loading up with players. So if you were going to make it in baseball from a black university, you had to be prepared from situations, base running, how to hit, bunt, run, steal, score, make the right throw to the cutoff man, all this stuff you had to do. And we would practice on that daily. We had practice an hour and a half every day. My coach, Coach Hines, told me that if you practice more than an hour and a half, these kids are going to be mentally tired and they're going to make mistakes. It will impact how you judge them. We started at 3:30, we ended at 5 every day. We had nothing after that. The only time it was practice was different when it rained. We would practice in the mud, learn how to slide. And we would take probably a little longer than an hour and a half because the kids thought it was fun.
Now I'm gonna start something today here on 100 Yards Football. And I don't mean I'm not trying to be what a lot of people call me. My nickname is the instigator, but but Coach, give me your top 5 players that you coached in your baseball career at Southern. The top 5, starting from 1 through 5.
That's like having 10 kids and trying to choose 5 who you love the most.
Yes, sir.
I can name Michael Woods. He was one. Otis Tramble, Reggie Williams, DeMarlo Hale, and there's Carl Spikes, Harvey Lee, Tommy Barber. Those guys were all guys who were instrumental in us winning quite a few games.
Yes, sir.
And DeMarlo Hale was one exception. Well, I had another kid named Greg Smith, who it's a funny story. He came in the fall, and I let him bat one day because he wasn't hitting nothing. He was swinging at everything. I just let the kid hit the whole hour and a half. And Coach Hines drove out and said, "Boy, who's that kid swinging?" I said, "Coach, he been batting the whole hour. He ain't fouled the ball." He said, "Leroy, that kid's going to be a great hitter." First game of the season, I had another kid playing first base. He made a couple errors, so I said, "Dog, let me get this kid a chance." He never got out the game from then on. I'm taking information from my coach about a kid I thought was bum. He turned out to be a great player.
Yes, sir.
Now, I coached Danny. I was assistant coach to Danny Goodwin.
Yes,
and
sir.
Joe Pittman.
Yes, sir.
And I was their assistant coach. Now, Danny was one of the great players. But to me, the greatest player from Southern is Luke Brock. I had a chance to meet him through Mr. Woods and Barnum because they was his college teammates. And when he got brought up to the Cubs in '61, they took me to meet him.
Yes,
and
sir.
Then Southern used to have clinics, but all the great black players in the National League would come to Baton Rouge. We'd have a clinic at Southern campus. Ernie Banks, Hank Aaron, Billy Williams. Those guys would come there and give us pointers. So it was a big impact on me playing baseball at Southern because we had everything.
Give me your 5 principles of your time playing in Southern and coaching in Southern that made players very, very successful. Give me your 5 principles.
Be on time was number 1. Number 2 is dress accordingly with your uniform and how you get on the bus. Coach Hines required a certain tie. We require a certain tie. The third was not to gloat. And when you get beat, shake their hands and look them in the eye so they know they were lucky to beat you. And the 5th was just have confidence in yourself, even when I'm dogging you.
Yes, sir. My final question today here on 100 Yards Football, the coach Leroy Boyd, a legend at Southern University, coach from 1972 to 1984. What are some of the things that you would tell the youth today if they want to be a player at the next level in the major leagues?
First of all, it's structure. You got to be able to Work on your own on little things. Like sometimes the way things are now, parents are more influencing these kids when they think they got a kid that's going to be the next Barry Bonds. But kids got to find a position and stick with it. And if you don't find a position, play a lot of them until you get to an age where you can develop into that one position. And don't give up. Because the worst thing that a kid can do that wants to play baseball is be scared of the baseball. If you're not scared of the ball, you can become a good player. But the thing is, in order to get to the next level, either you're going to be great in high school, and if not, you're going to have to develop yourself in college. And I would suspect that most kids should go to college for at least 3 years. That way you can understand where you're going in the draft and if you're eligible. As you see right now, we're not getting a lot of black kids from HBCUs getting drafted and playing in major leagues because they're not getting the top kid. The top kid is playing football and basketball. In the major universities, if a kid has talent above the regular level, they are recruiting them big time. The LSU had a first baseman from
Yes,
New
sir.
Orleans.
Trey Moore.
We used to get everybody from New Orleans, everybody in Louisiana. Look, on the team I played at Southern, we had a shortstop that was drafted in the first round by the White Sox. We had a third baseman that was drafted 6 times because he had a winter and a summer draft. And we had a center fielder that got drafted twice. We had a left fielder that got drafted twice. We had a pitcher that got drafted twice by the Braves and the Dodgers, but he ended up signing with the Braves, played about 5 years in the Brave organization, went to Mexico and became a Hall of Famer in Mexico League. So we had talent. Everybody in the SWAC had talent. But once they hit that, the PWIs realized they had to have black players to catch the other black players. That's when baseball in the black community changed because they just stopped flocking to football. And then when basketball became that global threat that it is, then all the kids started playing more basketball. Because then when I grew up in Chicago, baseball was the biggest thing. Football was third, basketball was second. And now you go to Chicago now, and if you got 100 kids, 98 of them playing basketball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. Coach Boyd, your final words here today on 100 Yards of Football.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Big time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'd like to give special thanks to our team today that made it happen. First of all, to Mr. Logan Landers. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you to my business partner, Mr. Ronnie Keebler. Thank you, Mr. Bobby Butler, first round draft pick in the 1981 draft by the Atlanta Falcons by way of Florida State University. Wow. Thank you to the producer on Monday, Mr. Jeremiah Long. Thank you, man. I wouldn't be where I'm at. And of course, thank you to the voice, Mr. Mark Denham. Thank you, out of Lufkin, Texas. And finally, thank you to the man that know him as the Bear, Mr. Boyd, close to him, the legend himself, Jim Maryland. Thank you so much here on 100 Yards Football.
I like to add one thing. If you can get an interview with DeMarlo Hill of the Cleveland Indians, as one of the kids I recruited and coached.
Yes, sir.
He's been in baseball about 20, 25 years, and he's what they call a bench coach, which is second behind the manager. He has a big influence.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Coach Boyd. And I'm going to end it with this. There's neon lights on Broadway. Coach Boyd was neon lights from 1972 to 1984. Look at his career and look at his resume. One of the greatest college baseball coaches of all time. We'd like to say thank you here today on 100 Yards Football. Y'all be blessed.
Thank you.